And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the #1 podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your handsome host, Sean.
I'm your beautiful host, Daniel.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España. No hablo español.
The cute one.
Yes. This week, we hope you watch along with us for Eyes Wide Shut, 1999.
Look, women don't. They basically just don't think like that.
If you men only knew.
You got a little stoned tonight, you've been trying to pick a fight with me, and now you're trying to make me jealous.
You've never been jealous about me, have you?
No, I haven't.
Why haven't you ever been jealous about me?
Well, I don't know, Alice. Maybe because you're my wife.
You are very, very sure of yourself, aren't you?
No. I'm sure of you. Do you think that's funny? I need a cloak with a hood and a mask.
Okay, I think we'll find something for you.
I suppose you'd like the password.
If you'd like, sir.
Fidelia.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think you realize the danger you're in now.
You've been way out of your depth.
You've got to get away before it's too late. If you men only knew.
Written and directed by Stanley Kubrick. You may know this auteur from lauded works such as 2001, Space Odyssey, The Shining, and Barry Lyndon. I'll only give 3 since we don't have all day. It's based on the novel Tromnevele, written by Arthur...
Say again, I'm sorry?
Tromnevele, written by Arthur Schnitzel.
All right.
Is there a Kubrick film not based on a book? I was wondering if either of you know, because I feel like there isn't.
2001: A Space Odyssey was based on a book?
I believe it was, and there was also a novel written concurrently with the movie, but I think it was inspired by an even earlier novel from that same author.
I guess Spartacus. I mean, he technically directed it. He came into it, and I don't think that's based off a book.
Sure, maybe. Yeah.
But he didn't direct it from the beginning, right?
No, but I mean, he does have the credit because he came in
He did
most.
most.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
So I would say Spartacus, actually.
Cool. If there's any others, shoot us a comment in the YouTube comment section. Yeah, there. That'll be good. Starring Tom Cruise as Dr. William Harford, Nicole Kidman as Alice Harford, Sidney Pollack as Victor Ziegler, and Todd Field as Nick Nightingale. What a badass name. Dr. William Harford discovers that his wife is having fantasies about other men. Driven into a jealous fury, he stalks the night looking for sex. After narrowly...
After be one of those podcasts, yes.
After narrowly dodging temptation, he's finally driven to a high-end secretive sex cult where all is not as it seems. Secretive sex cults are, in my experience, pretty cut and dry.
Tell me about that experience.
It was a fancy mansion.
Overall thoughts, or was there more?
No, that's it. Overall impressions. Let's see. I loved it. Stanley Kubrick knocks it out of the park again. It was dense, captivating, sexy, and even scary through its implications. It's a real anybody character story wrapped up in a mystery drama. I think anyone can empathize with the themes of waning passion, jealousy, and hurt. I actually thought it was the most human story I've ever seen from Kubrick.
The ones I have, I would agree with that. I liked the film. I thought it was solid. It's well acted, well directed. Some of my misgivings about the film have more to do with its length. I think there were some scenes that could have been cut out at a running time about 2 hours and 37 minutes. I think it's a bit long in the tooth. But beyond that, I have some other misgivings. But overall, yeah, I would say I enjoyed it. What about you, Danny?
I actually really enjoyed it. I have less of an issue with the length. I was fairly captivated throughout the film. I thought there were a lot of very interesting moments. I do wish they did a little bit more with the cult. I didn't expect it to be just this.
This isn't a critique of you, but I do notice that tends to be your problems with films. You'll find something you like, and then there's just not enough of that. That's been a common theme with you.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was just expecting more because I thought that was what this whole movie was going to really be surrounded by, the cult, and it's not, and that's not entirely true. It really is just that for one little chunk of the movie, and then you don't see anything else about this cult. It's really more about
more is implied than shown. Absolutely
right. It's more about just his adventure on these 2 nights with not just the cult, but with all these random characters that he encounters throughout the film that don't really feel as minor as you would think in one of these movies, right? Like they were very fleshed out characters.
I noticed that. I thought one of the themes, actually, after watching the whole movie, was the secret lives of everyday people.
Yes.
So it's touching on all these people that at first seem to fall into this box, and then throughout the film you learn about their depravities and their hidden secrets.
Right. It felt like every character that Bill would run into, they would be in the spotlight of the movie. They would almost be like co-lead for that moment, and it just felt very intense and very surreal in each of those moments. And also I noticed that pretty much almost every character that Bill runs into is trying to have sex with him.
I love you. I don't want to go away with Carl.
How'd you like to have a little fun? I just live right down there. Would you like to come inside with me?
And by the way, if the good doctor himself should ever want anything again, anything at all, it needn't be a costume.
Did you guys notice that? Or a lot of the characters?
Well,
some of the female characters, I would say, but not
everyone's trying to hit on him. Everybody. So like when he first goes to rent out the tux and the mask, you got the store owner's daughter hitting on him. You have when I'm going to skip around. I'm not going to do it in order.
Yeah, but hitting on him, I mean, she's being a little flirtatious. I wouldn't say she's trying to have sex with him.
Well, okay. Maybe that was, not the right word for it.
I see what you're saying. Yes, I agree.
Everyone was hitting on him.
Yeah.
The girl at the diner, when he was just trying to ask about Nick Nightingale, about where he was going to be, was hitting on him. The other one at the coffee shop, you had the guy at the hotel, the front service clerk.
Oh, he was for sure.
I definitely was hitting on him.
Felt that,
and more. There was just I felt like it was all over the place.
Yeah, definitely.
So talking about the themes, I want to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
I was gonna be very blunt. What was the point of this movie? Like, what was its overall message? I'm not trying to be ironic here, but I actually, after watching the film, I actually don't know what the message of the film is.
So I had a message that I picked up on.
Sure.
They kind of lay it out in the final conversation between Alice and William, which is that they have to accept that you can never fully know a person. Dreams and desires are real, but the important thing is what you do. So that was the message I got from it. And in addition to the themes of everybody being a unique individual and having their own secret desires and lives that we can never really tap into.
Okay. What about you, Danny? What do you think?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, in the end, you see, Nicole Kidman's character kind of pretty quickly accepting what Bill had done, accepting his like inner fantasies, because she knew that herself, she had these similar fantasies. They realize that they're human and they made that mistake, but they're choosing to push forward with this relationship. It kind of teaches you also that sometimes relationships, a lot of times they aren't so clean.
Right.
Right. Even from the outside, you're looking at these two perfect doctors with their beautiful house and they have money and this wonderful kid. And on the inside, they're fantasizing about other people and gangbangs and cucking each other. It's a whole mess.
But life goes on. And
it's more about what you choose.
Right. None of them actually ended up having sex with anybody.
Right.
If you think about it.
And like you said, William had plenty of opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
He went looking, but honestly, he turned down a few.
He turned them down.
Yeah.
The hooker that just like called him into the house, he ended up doing nothing with her.
Yeah, when he goes into the sex mansion, he's looking around, but he didn't engage in anything. He definitely could have.
Yeah, and that was even after being feeling like emasculated by his wife.
Oh yeah, he got destroyed.
That entire scene where like Alice is on pot and she's just talking about that trip that they took where she saw this guy and immediately she like kind of fell for him and wanted to pretty much risk her whole relationship just to be with this man. And
But before we get into that, did that answer your question, or did you have your own interpretation?
Well, I guess that answers my question in terms of what you guys thought the ultimate message of the film is. I see your guys' understanding of what the message is. I kind of got that, but I don't know. I guess I also got a bit of complacency on both of their parts where, they were being complacent with, what's going on in their lives. And it's better to keep on with that than to try to move on to something else, because like the whole film, Bill is essentially trying to find someone to sleep with, and like it's just a whole adventure for him, and it's exhausting mentally, physically. It's something that at every single step is proven to be like, if he had done it with any of them, there would have been dire consequences beyond just the obvious failing of his marriage and the cheating aspect. But like, for example, with the hooker, she gets tested positive for HIV. That if he would have slept with her, it was pretty good chance that he would have gotten HIV. So I see it more as he had an attempt to branch out, so to speak, and at every possible turn it was shown to be like the worst choice that he could make. And as a result, he's seeing like, okay, what I have here now is good. I don't know that I saw him seeing it as anything more than just good in terms of like the relationship. Like it's there, it's kind of comfortable, and he wants to keep that comfort.
Well, yeah, it depends on what those alternative choices are. These were very bad choices.
Right.
And I don't think he was complacent. I think she was. I think Alice was feeling complacent, but
yeah, if anything,
he was driven by jealousy, because she pushed jealousy out of him. Because as they were arguing, she said, "Oh, you never get jealous of anything." And it took her saying this story that I was in the middle of earlier, pretty much her fantasy that she ran into this guy while they were on vacation, while her and Bill were on vacation, and she wanted to sleep with him, and pretty much she was ready to get rid of her relationship for this random guy who only glanced at her for one moment. And that was the moment where like Bill started, where kind of traumatized Bill.
You remember last summer at Cape Cod? Do you remember one night in the dining room, there was this young naval officer. He glanced at me as he walked past, just a glance. But I could hardly move. At no time was he ever out of my mind. And I thought if he wanted me, even if it was only for one night, I was ready to give up everything. You, Helena, my whole fucking future, everything.
Yeah,
I think it really entered his psyche at that moment, because then from then on, you just see Bill having these not fantasies, I guess. What would you call them? Nightmare fantasies.
Yeah, traumatic fantasies.
Yeah, traumatic fantasies of his wife with this random sailor, naval officer. And that was really what was driving him throughout the night.
Sure.
Pushing him, giving him a justification to do all these things.
Right.
But she was the one that was complacent.
But you don't think he was complacent beforehand? Like, yes, I understand and I agree with you that after that incident, yes, he was anything but complacent. He was looking for it, right? But beforehand, the way he talked about the marriage was like very matter-of-factly. Like he was very rational in terms of his thoughts about it, where, he won't go out and sleep with somebody else because he is married.
Well, he's because he loves his wife and he trusts her and she trusts him. No, it seemed to me, my impression was that he was very happy. And maybe there wasn't a fiery, hot passion, but it was a 9-year relationship.
Right. I'm not saying complacency is a bad thing. I'm just saying like he's complacent. Like he likes what's the status quo. That's what I'm getting at.
For me, complacency isn't the right word, because he's made a commitment. He's still very much tempted by these models who are trying to get him to go upstairs and do a threesome, but he chooses not to, even though that would be awesome.
I see that as more complacent, to be honest.
So is there an example of being faithful that isn't complacent?
I mean, I think part of being faithful is being complacent with where you're at right now. Because, there's always, I don't want to say always, but there's many times a desire to move beyond what you have and try to attain more, right? And I think that's part of what...
Well, I think
go ahead.
I think with that argument, then everyone is complacent.
I think in some regard, yeah.
With their lives.
I would say so.
Well, so is complacency, and are you making
I'm
the
not saying
argument that it's a
bad.
negative?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I otherwise I'd say I think he was very happy with his marriage compared to Alice. He was still the one initiating all the sexual moments in the beginning of the film.
Alice infuriated me, by the way. I don't know if she infuriated you.
Well,
the way they even start their conversation is she's immediately trying to trick him into admitting to what she's guilty of. She's trying to trick him into admitting that he wants to sleep with other people because she's feeling guilty about it. So she's kind of throwing it on him and talking around it, to try and trap him. And he avoids the trap until she finally has to admit what she's been fantasizing, which that just infuriated me.
Yeah, and then she admits it, like that this guy wanted to sleep with her, and she doesn't get the response that she wanted.
Exactly.
Instead, Bill's just like, well, why wouldn't he want to? You're beautiful.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, is that the only reason he would? Just because I'm hot? Nothing else? And then she's just starting to fight for anything.
Never enough, yeah.
Never enough. Oh, that was infuriating.
Yeah, I definitely agree that she was doing that all purposefully, tried to incite him and tried to antagonize him. I will say at the party in the beginning, Bill was walking with the two models somewhere. And the only reason he didn't continue with them seemingly is because he got called up to Ziegler's bathroom to help out, with his situation. We don't actually see him say no. He's just kind of questioning like what their intentions are the whole time. So I don't know that he has necessarily a better leg to stand on in that regard, because who knows where the night would have taken him if all that stuff with Ziegler and the hooker he hadn't happened.
Yeah, so that's just whatever your impression of the character was. To me, he seemed faithful to me. Not that wasn't flirting back. He definitely was, but I didn't see him cheating. If anything, I thought if Alice felt like she could get away with it, she would have cheated.
What do you mean?
When she's being hit on by this rich aristocrat Bulgarian, he's trying to take her upstairs.
Hungarian.
The
Hungarian.
And my impression was that the only reason she didn't do it is because it was too risky. But she actually really seemed like she wanted to.
She did seem like she wanted to more.
It wasn't just flirting. It was like she was really tempted.
But Bill was interested. I feel that Bill was definitely interested. They were both doing wrong that night, to a certain extent.
I agree.
If we had to measure it, I guess maybe Alice more so, but they were both doing wrong. Alice is the one that admitted to it.
That is true. Yeah.
But she did it just because she wanted to incite jealousy.
Yeah.
In Bill. She didn't do it for good reasons.
The way she went about it was terrible.
Yeah, it was not good. I mean, to be fair, she was very high.
Yeah, but even then, like she had something on her mind and she wanted to bring it out.
Yeah, she had a joint? I mean, come on.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, some people are lightweights, but anyways.
And then the even worse thing she does is the next night needlessly tell him about this dream.
Yeah, like
where she is sleeping with a dozen other men and making him watch and laughing about it. So she's telling him about a dream where she cucks him and then laughs about it. What purpose was there?
Yeah, comfort me because of that dream that I'm having. Like, come on. That was horrible.
Doesn't he ask her what she was dreaming about?
Sure, because she was laughing hysterically, but she could lie in that situation.
I guess it's a little bit murky territory because then you're holding on to something there.
There is no situation where it's good to tell your partner that you enjoy having them cucked.
Yeah, it's a dream. It's out of your control.
Yeah.
But why? So why are you gonna say it to hurt the partner? Like it's gonna hurt him. Like that.
Yeah,
especially after the fight they just had.
Yeah, especially after telling him that story. It just felt like she didn't have much empathy.
Yeah, so when you say complacency, I really feel that applies to Alice. Like she wasn't happy in the relationship, and she was trying to start something. I don't know, to get excited, to have a fight and mix things up. Yep. But you know what? She really doesn't have. I mean, you don't know their entire lives, right? We only see what we see. But her complacency, her dissatisfaction with the marriage really rubs me the wrong way because she's married to a faithful husband who provides for her. She doesn't have to work. She has a wonderful family. He loves her. They make love all the time.
Treats her great.
Treats her
from
fantastically.
What we've seen.
Yeah, we don't see any kind of abuse or anything, and she's being very mean to him.
Yeah.
It's very
she
mean-spirited.
rubbed me the wrong way for sure. Like, as a matter of fact, after that initial conversation where, you know, he shifted his mindset, I was rooting for him. I was kind of like, go have that night. Wow. I don't know if that's wrong for me to say, maybe, but like, that's how I felt internally. Sure. I'm like, man, after what this girl has said, like, I just felt like, you know what? She probably has cheated on you. Screw this. Go.
I actually misunderstood the sailor monologue at first. I had to rewind it because I wasn't sure if she was talking around the admittance, so I thought maybe she had slept with the sailor. But it was always just a fantasy.
I don't know. I guess I just have a different perspective on her, because you also have to remember that Bill at that point could have admitted everything that had gone on up to that point when she had that dream, but hadn't. You know, he's also actively lying to her as well. So I see them as both not great people. I guess is where I'm getting at, because I both think they're pretty deplorable in their own ways.
Well, at that point, he had just come back from that whole mansion scene where he was threatened, and he just discovered this hidden order of psycho rich people. And I don't blame him for not telling his wife at that moment. He was a bit in shock. You know what I mean?
Fair.
And
sure,
it was like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
He had just gotten back from all this craziness. So
yeah, but he also actively lies to her multiple times when she calls him and says like, "Oh, I'm still at Marion's house, you know, comforting her and waiting for her family to come by." Like he's not an innocent person.
But that's not indicative of his normal behavior. At that point, he was intentionally trying to hurt her, intentionally trying to cheat.
Yeah, I feel like this was like an isolated incident.
Her behavior came out of nowhere. Yeah, he hadn't done anything.
Yeah, it came out of that whole conversation about her fantasy.
That's the inciting incident to go out and try and cheat.
Right.
I guess I have a different perspective on him. I feel like this isn't the first time he's either lied to her or maybe at the very least thought about doing something like this.
Well, I wouldn't say thought of doing something to this crazy
extent,
definitely
not.
This is
No,
out
of course
of
not.
control.
Of course not, right.
But I mean, I feel like, yeah, he has
I don't
thought
think
of other women as...
Yeah, but I don't think there's evidence that he's seriously thought about cheating, because even when he wants to cheat, he feels too guilty to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, other things happen that pull him away. So
sure,
I don't know.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot more evidence that he's a faithful husband. Even when he's trying to go out and hurt her, sometimes he can't do it, and sometimes something else intervenes.
That scene with the hooker, it wasn't like he had to go home right away either, right?
No, that was a free pass.
The wife was like, "Well, I'm going to bed. See you tomorrow." He could have just done whatever he wanted. He still got home super late.
Yeah.
So I think that was less so because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to.
Yeah.
He felt the guilt.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, no, he definitely felt guilty.
More guilty than Alice ever did.
Oh yeah, she acted like she was the victim there for having these fantasies.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess for me, him being there in the first place, like, rubbed me the wrong way more so. Like him, like, looking out for it. But again, yes, there was an inciting incident that caused him to want to lash out in that way.
Yeah, I want to take a little pivot away from like the story element. Just wanted to talk about the cinematography for a moment. Well, I'll start with the question. What did you guys think of the overall look of the film?
Thought it was beautiful, masterful all the way through. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I really liked. I love that surreal look that they gave the film. It was like a very bloomy look the entire time. You know, like high contrast blooms, and then they used all the Christmas lights. They used a lot of lighting in the scene to make it look just like this big dreamscape almost. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, like a nostalgic feeling despite whatever time period it takes place in.
Right. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
There was a detail I noticed. I could be mistaken, but after Nick disappears, I think that's the first time that the piano score kicks in. It never plays before that. And then it plays throughout the rest of the film. Mm-hmm. And to me, with how forward that was in the mix, it almost feels like he's right off screen. So he's got this ghostly presence haunting William throughout the rest of the movie.
Right. I will say there were some moments where that piano became way too prominent in the mix.
I liked it.
Yeah, same.
Particularly when he's like being followed outside, and he's like by some little shop.
The newsstand.
The newsstand, yeah. And he sees some guy in the corner. That piano gets really loud and in your face. And I was like, jeez. It distracted me a little bit, I will say, at that moment. And I think they used that theme a little too much.
Well, sure. For me, I really loved it all the way through. Because it just made me think of Nick each time. So it gives a kind of ominous feeling like he's already dead, even though you're hoping he's going to turn up alive and William is looking for him, obviously. I feel like as soon as he gets black bagged and we don't see him, he's dead, or he might as well be. He's taken away by the secret society.
Schrodinger's piano player.
Yeah.
And actually, I had forgotten this word, but what I want to say about the lighting as well is I think this movie has the most use of practical lights I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
Right? Yeah. And, if you guys, or in case you guys don't know the term practical lighting, that just means pretty much lighting that's used not to light for the movie, but as a set decoration, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting that's seen in the shot, like a lit up lamp or whatever. But, I mean, I guess Kubrick really used Christmas as a good excuse to just pour so many lights into this movie.
Oh, and he's a master at lighting. I think that was one of his jobs as he worked his way up.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool to see. And especially with the bloom effect, it really made it pop even more.
I especially noticed that when Bill first sees Nick playing in the cafe, that whole area was gorgeous. I mean, that scene when he's just sitting there and they kind of have like a one shot on Bill and like you see the background and all the lighting and like kind of like the atmosphere there. Oh, I thought that was amazing. Like absolutely amazing.
What was the password that he's given? Is it like fellatio?
No. No.
What is the password? Orgy. You may enter.
It's Fidelio, and that's actually, well, that was actually an unintentional funny. We won't have to get into it now, but I'd always heard that term.
Fidelio. You know the meaning?
No, I don't.
I think it means faithful.
Oh, does it?
I believe so.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I hadn't thought of that.
Thematic.
Yeah, no kidding.
Something William did that kind of bothered me, not as a critique of the story, but as a critique of the character himself, is he keeps looking for Nick, despite the warning that he and his family are going to be killed. Like, I'm of two minds there. If I was Nick, I would want somebody to try and help me, to look for me, right? But, bro, you got to put your family first. At this point, you think they're killers. You have a lot of evidence for this, and you keep pushing their buttons.
Yeah, and I don't like his decision to just go back to the mansion and stand outside the gate.
Terrible idea.
Hey, I'm still looking. Like, it just, what were you trying to achieve at that moment? They had already warned you. Then they warned you again.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that second warning, I think if they were really this crazy order of murdering psychos, I don't think they would have given him a second warning, in my opinion. They were being very lenient on him, which I think helps with the final scene where his rich friend is trying to explain, Ziegler is trying to explain to him, hey, we were just trying to scare you.
Well, the reason I have some doubt towards that statement is he is a rich doctor with connected friends. So I was thinking maybe he'd have some leniency, but perhaps. I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, it could still go either way.
Yeah.
But it's tough. Okay, speaking on that, what did you guys think? Do you guys think it was all a charade to scare him away from this, sex cult? Or do they really kill to cover things up?
I don't think that it was just an empty claim to scare William away. One of the reasons being is that they're doing all this weird, structured ceremony crap before they even know they have an intruder. So I don't buy entirely that they set up that fake sacrifice at the end on a whim. It seemed it was too structured. It was too well put together for it to be, let's just scare this guy at this last minute.
Well, I let me just rebuttal that one.
Sure.
They did pull away the girl from the ceremony for quite a bit of time to maybe explain to her what was going on. The girl that they...
It's shot in real time. I don't think it was more than 2 minutes.
Was it real time? Because he's
it was a little.
he's perambulating. I learned that word from Scent of a Woman. Perambulating in the mansion, looking at all the sex scenes. Like, you know, that's a pretty big mansion.
So you think in between? So you think in between the first warning and the second warning, they had talked to her and kind of set this up?
Maybe it's possible. Though one question I do have is, how did the girl know immediately that he didn't belong?
Yeah,
and
I had that
because
question
when
too.
he walked in, she was in the middle of the ritual. No one was able to talk to her, so she did the ritual, and then, you know, there was the part where all the women of the ritual would go and pick a man at random, I guess, to go have sex, and she picked him. So there was no moment where someone was able to like talk to her about the situation.
I had the same point. And if she was just a random prostitute that they hired, she wouldn't have been privy to that information. Like, oh, he has the rental stub in his pocket and he came in a taxi.
Yeah.
But if she was involved and a main member, then it's more likely she would know about that stuff.
Yeah. So who was she?
I think she was a practicing member.
Well, I have two thoughts
Uh-huh.
to kind of go off of your original point. Lending credence to it being an act, so to speak. I can imagine them having some way, some like practice way that they're going to scare somebody. Because I imagine it may not be the first time somebody made their way into these parties that were uninvited. You know what I mean? So I can imagine maybe they have like some like safety measures, so to speak, to get them off. Now regarding the point about who the girl was, I understood it as it was the girl that Bill saves in the beginning of Ziegler's bathroom, and
Right.
because we see her later, and it looked exactly the same, and her
that's
name
what
was
Ziegler even says it. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
right,
okay. Yeah,
he says it. So I think that's her, and maybe somehow, some way she recognized him, which is a stretch. Is a big stretch for sure. Maybe through his voice or something. I don't know.
No, he hadn't spoken yet. But yeah, I don't think she could have recognized him. Again, if it was just if she was a random junkie hired prostitute, there's no way she would have been as informed of all these inconsistencies in William's arrival or his story.
Maybe she didn't know who he was, but she did know that he didn't belong because they all know each other. Like
They know their masks.
They know the masks, and he just clearly is not one of them. That could be another possibility.
Maybe.
I put it as a long shot, but maybe.
It is a little, yeah.
I definitely read it as this is a kind of a thank you for saving her life from the party the other day.
Yeah, but
the other
again,
night.
there's no way she would know that it was him.
I
she
think
could
maybe
know-
she could recognize from his voice. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering the events of their conversation, but I thought she asked him something, and then she heard his voice and then recognized him from the previous night, because it was just the last night.
He's picked out before he talks, for sure.
Yeah, he doesn't talk yet. He's just standing there, and she picks him. Maybe she recognized his height.
That's true. That is true.
There's no dwarves here.
That is true. Somehow he's on par height-wise with Nicole Kidman, known tall woman.
He's shorter.
No, I know, but in a lot of the shots, he's shown to be the same
a
height,
yeah.
or just about the same height. I was like,
Another knock against it being a performance is that if Ziegler really wanted to put the whole thing to bed, he would have laid down the full picture right away when he's talking to William at the end. Instead, he waits to see what William knows and then knocks them point by point from these precompiled answers, these precompiled rebuttals.
Sure.
Instead of just laying out the entire story.
That's true. Yeah,
He's saying as little as possible.
Yeah, it feels like he's sort of maybe improvising a little too as he goes. Like he has
Definitely.
a few planned things to say, but he's waiting on his response. He also had nothing to say about Nick's the pianist, his the bruise on his cheek. Right, he was just like, he's got a bruise on his cheek.
Yeah, I thought the implication was, we roughed him up, he deserved it, but we're not killers.
I thought maybe he just couldn't think of anything at that moment.
Well, I mean, probably that's a pretty good line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can think of that pretty quickly. Yeah, we roughed him up, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the point is it's definitely up to interpretation. So if any of you wonderful listeners would like to let us know what you think, drop it in the comment section. Would you guys agree? It's pretty much up to interpretation?
Yeah,
for sure.
It's pretty open-ended in that regard, for sure.
A nice little detail I noticed was that when William is reading the newspaper in the coffee shop in the later half of the movie, you see a big headline, "Lucky to be alive."
Yep, I saw that too.
it's in prominent text, and I was actually surprised at how prominent it was because Kubrick is a master of subliminal subtext, and this was pretty obvious, right? But regardless, I thought it worked. As soon as I saw it, it kind of recontextualized the situation and made me more uneasy. So he very much could have considered that and figured this is better to make obvious instead of subtextual.
I agree. Yeah, I like that he made it very obvious. I think it worked better for the scene.
Yeah.
Was there any other subtext you guys noticed in the film? Prominent subtext in the film?
Nothing prominent. I did get little feelings and hints that a lot of the characters he was talking to were somehow connected to the secret society, which I thought was intentional. But yeah, nothing else.
Well, I had a thought on that because I sort of agree with what you just said, but I think it's more so that maybe one of them was in on it somehow, and they basically traced his steps back from the party and beforehand, and were able to talk to all the people, or cajole, or whatever you want to call it, all the people that Bill had run into that night. Because like everyone he goes back to is out of sight, out of mind, pretty much, except for the costume store owner. But even then, like, he's completely changed his tune in terms of like the men that were sleeping with his daughter, like complete 180.
Yeah, that threw me off a little bit.
It did too for me, but I get the sense that the cult, or whatever you want to call them, they had talked to him,
like recruited his daughter and got him in on it.
I guess. I mean, she seemed like she knew about it because she did recommend a certain style of cape or a certain color of cape before he goes there.
That's a perfect example. Like, you don't know how wide their web is, you know?
Right. So yeah, I understood that they kind of talked to everyone there, because even Marion, the grieving lady whose father had passed that night, I don't think we see her again, even though Bill calls.
Right.
So like everyone that he interacted with, again, save for the costume store owner, is gone.
What did you guys think about the overall performances of, Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and the overall cast?
Tom Cruise came across like Patrick Bateman, but I don't think he can help it. That's just Tom Cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought everybody did fine. More than fine. I thought everybody did great.
Yeah.
I just generally don't like Tom Cruise, so.
Yeah, no, we know that very well. I could see the Patrick Bateman
I was gonna say,
reference.
You may know that, but you can't deny.
No,
when
I
he's
can see it.
walking around with this nice haircut and that suit, I'm like, that's Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, I can see that. I like Tom Cruise. I like him. Not in everything, but I thought he had a very subdued performance here.
Yes.
Like, it's the most subdued Tom Cruise I think I've ever seen, and I really enjoyed that side of him, where I was just kind of waiting for him to really start lashing out, like going crazy, but he never like truly does. He's just always kind of like, he kind of remains calm.
Despite his position in society as this rich doctor, he came across as very much a normal guy.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
And I did not expect Nicole Kidman's character to fall off so hard in terms of presence in the film. Like, the second half of the film, she's not really there, right? Like, or barely there.
No,
So
same too. I guess my impression of the movie was that this was an adventure they were going on together.
Yeah, exactly. But no, she's just home, asleep,
fantasizing.
I mean, she's ever present in his mind for sure. I mean, she's really the crux of the film.
I mean, you do see her throughout the film, but she's just having sex with a naval officer the entire time.
In his mind,
in his mind.
Yeah. To your question though, I love the performances. Actually, I thought for what the director seemingly wanted out of this film and what he wanted from these performances, I thought they did a fantastic job. Tom Cruise is a very like measured, rational person. Alice is a very like, I don't know how to describe her.
Horny housewife.
Yes.
Jaded.
Yes. A little jaded. Yeah.
Spoiled. Bratty.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So very negative view on her then.
It's true.
But ultimately, I think very loving person, especially with the ending in mind.
Loving mother.
Yeah, loving mother, but loving partner too, ultimately. Despite the events of the film, like, she does accept him back, right?
Because she knows that she was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I was almost annoyed he had to apologize, considering he didn't sleep with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like it wasn't so bad.
The intention matters, though.
Sure.
If your partner tells you, hey, I went I went out this last night to go sleep with somebody. I didn't do it because I felt guilty. I mean, that would wreck you. I mean, that would wreck me. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but
for sure.
But then I would say, but you did just tell me that you have been fantasizing about this guy.
It's worse than fantasizing. She says, if he had propositioned me, I would have.
Yeah. Like, you literally just told me that. So I went out to do something, and then I didn't.
We're even.
We're even.
2 wrongs don't make a right.
You know, sorry it happened, but you did that too. So you know what? Let's forgive each other and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
2 wrongs don't make a right, in my opinion. I think, like I said earlier, I think they were both pretty deplorable.
I agree.
Those like few nights.
I agree. So what we're saying is that he shouldn't have to. It seemed like he was the one in the doghouse hoping for forgiveness.
Oh, they both were. Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think they both needed to apologize to each other because they both really messed up each other.
I think there was just one more thing they had to do.
Oh, what is it? I'm curious.
There is something very important that we need to do as soon as possible.
What's that?
Fuck.
Fuck.
There you go.
That's it. I'm not gonna do it. All right. So did you know that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman actually signed open-ended contracts for this movie? So pretty much they agreed to work with Stanley Kubrick for as long as Stanley Kubrick needed them.
Whoa.
Which ended up being, I think, a few years.
A few years?
Oh yeah, I think I heard that too. That it was stop and go, right?
Yeah, it was stop and go, and you know, in typical Kubrick fashion, a lot of takes and reshoots and things like that, because you know he wanted perfection. You know, which in the end, of course, is worth it. But yeah, I personally liked that about Tom Cruise. I thought that was he was very committed. Sure. Even though he was already kind of a big star. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is my big chance. Let me do whatever Kubrick wants me to do. No, he had already done movies like Jerry Maguire, The First Mission Impossible, Interview with a Vampire, A Few Good Men, and he still accepted this contract, which meant he respected the art. All right, so this movie appeared in the Guinness Book of World Records with the record for the longest constant movie shoot at 400 days.
Really? There wasn't anything longer before that?
400 days.
That's constant shoot.
Constant.
That's almost unbelievable.
That's a lot. Like, this should have been done in like 40 days, let alone 400 days.
Can you explain what you mean by a constant shoot? I don't understand.
Like, they didn't take break. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to shoot this month and then we're going to shoot in 6 months. No, they were shooting. They had a constant shoot schedule.
Well, I assume they didn't have the full production there the whole time.
No, yeah, I would assume.
Oh, I misunderstood that. I thought you were saying they never braked. Like, basically, you know, people would be slotted in for some amount of time and then they'd have their break but then come back. But like, it's not like they ever stopped shooting, you know, on a particular day. So you're saying
like they would have days off. You know, legally you cannot do that.
The cameras were rolling every day though.
I wouldn't even say every day. Probably you can have weekends off, or maybe they shot for 5 days a week.
Oh, so for it to be continuous, production just has to not stop.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Paul Thomas Anderson actually made a visit to the set, and that is where he offered Tom Cruise the role of Frank T.J. Mackey in Magnolia.
Ooh.
So I guess he was pretty inspired by his performance there.
Oh, wow. I've never seen that.
Me neither.
And
did you know?
My final did you know is the mask that Bill Harford wears with his costume is actually modeled after the face of Ryan O'Neal. Can you guys tell me where he's from? What character? You guys have seen this film.
Ryan O'Neal?
Ryan O'Neal.
That name sounds familiar.
A reference to another movie by Kubrick.
Hold on. We can edit out
Dr. Strangelove?
Nope.
Hold on. Let me get a guess.
Lolita?
No.
2001?
Nope.
Barry Lyndon?
Yes.
I got it. I knew it. First try, baby.
Yeah, cut it. Just cut the first
Barry
guess.
Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon, yeah.
So who? What?
The mask. Bill's mask is modeled after Barry Lyndon.
Oh.
Crazy.
I thought I recognized it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, that concludes my Did You Know?
I got a funny.
Hit me.
Every time Bill needed to get someone's trust, he immediately whips out his doctor's license and says, "I'm a doctor."
Oh, that was funny.
That was pretty funny.
I mean, people kind of give him a pass, but you can tell it's not like.
Yeah,
what does this mean? You're not a cop, bro.
They're kind of like rolling their eyes, like, "All right, doctor."
Okay, you're a doctor.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's like, "Okay, I got them in. They trust me now." And everyone's like, "Okay, who cares, dude?"
PhD. Let me.
It kind of reminded me of what's that movie, The Hangover, where like the dentist guy, he's always like, "It's okay, I'm a doctor."
Oh yeah. No, you're not. Doesn't matter. No one cares.
I like that the cult has enough insight into their perception that they need to hire a piano player to add atmospheric music to their orgy, which I thought was, I don't know, maybe just maybe kind of funny.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, same.
It was, but it was also. I thought to myself, if I was at one of these, would I want like music at this, or just have it go out? You know what I mean?
I think you need to kind of soften the mood a little bit, otherwise it's a little bit too dungeony.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I needed the music, but it was unexpected to me to see him with an electric keyboard.
Oh yeah,
I thought he was gonna play like an organ or like a
He's a
grand
traveling
piano.
musician.
But no, he brought in he was playing like strings on a keyboard.
Yeah, I thought they would have had like something more regal.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? He's like on his Casio playing as people are like cavorting right behind him. Oh, if this movie was made in current times, I would love to see it just be a DJ where he just presses a button and then it just goes off.
It's just like a laptop.
Yeah, exactly. He presses it once and he's just like staring at the wall for like hours.
He puts on his giant lit up helmet, starts dancing along with it.
Yeah, and he's blindfolded on the inside of the helmet so he can't see through.
Now there you go.
Safety precautions.
So I have also just a couple little random notes.
Are they funny?
Just there's one scene I just remembered that I felt could have been cut out. I feel like it was pretty useless. Is when Bill is like walking down the street or the sidewalk, and this random group of teenagers like shove him, and they're like calling him gay, and like I don't even, I'm not really sure what the point of that scene was. I don't think it really brought anything to the movie.
I mean, for me, it was a scene of tension.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I saw it as like he was getting emasculated, so he was further engendered to like go out and sleep with somebody.
I definitely see that, especially with his like status symbol to be pushed around by some kids.
Yeah, I mean they were all taller than him. They were like shoving him around,
and that was after the conversation, right, with Alice.
Yes, definitely. Like he's wandering the night at that point.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I see it now. Oh yeah, this is just like a little side note that I noticed. I'm surprised that Bill and Alice's daughter doesn't believe in Santa Claus. For her age, they were just like, oh, yeah, tomorrow we're going to take her Christmas shopping. Instead of like the usual gifts under the tree. I don't know if that's like...
Oh, I totally bought it from rich people. I've seen that actually from rich friends. They just go shopping, like buy whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, I thought at least maybe put it under the tree. I mean, yeah, there's no Santa. Mom, Dad, buy me this, and that. But it was just like, nope, here's your free pass. Go into the mall and get whatever you want.
I think that's a culture thing.
I had never seen that before. So I was wondering if that was maybe, where was this movie supposed to be set?
It's in New York.
New York
City,
yeah. I think they shot the whole thing in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Stanley Kubrick actually, well, here's another little did you know. Stanley Kubrick didn't like traveling at all. So he didn't.
I've heard that.
So he didn't want to leave. He was just like, "We'll do it all here. We'll make it work."
Speaking of scenes that I felt didn't need to be in the movie, the scenes with the prostitute, I felt were like way too long, and especially
with Domino.
Was that her name, Domino?
I think it was the one that meets him on the street randomly.
Yes, yeah. I felt that scene was a bit too long, and then the scene where he comes back, I don't think was really that necessary. Like basically the crux of it was she's not here and she's got HIV, and that was basically it. I was like, this. I don't know that the scene really needed to be in the film.
You know, I was also a little confused by that scene. I thought that blonde girl was the one that had HIV. Like she was the roommate of Domino.
Yeah,
had HIV, right?
No,
or was it Domino?
No, it was Domino.
It was Domino. She says that she got a
she's
call.
talking about her roommate. Yeah.
Right. Oh, because it seemed like Bill was about to have sex with her.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was like trying to resist because she had something she had to tell him. And I thought it was like, well, because I have HIV.
Well, she's resisting because she doesn't want to get HIV.
No, she doesn't. Oh, she doesn't want. Oh, yeah. Right.
Whether it's transferable that fast, I don't think so. But she doesn't want to take that risk.
But it's strange that he doesn't explain to her, like, well, we didn't do anything.
Yeah, you would think Domino would have told her.
Well, I think that was enough reason for him to. Again, he's always on the line of doing it or not. So that was enough to like kind of kill the mood and move on.
True.
Yeah, I felt like we had a lot of those already. I didn't feel like that one was really necessary.
Yeah, I guess that depends on how you feel the pacing is going. But for me, it was entertaining enough that I'm never paying attention to the time, so I didn't mind the scene, even if it wasn't necessary to the plot.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either. Yeah, because I feel like part of the plot is just him interacting with all these
For sure.
these strange characters and having all these interesting, intense, intimate moments with them. So I thought it worked.
Yeah.
Cool.
The only other scene that I thought maybe could have been cut was, and it was funny, but I was like, this seems like from a different movie, was when the costume store owner finds his daughter sleeping with these like two businessmen, assuming.
Oh, that was awesome.
It was funny, but I was like, this feels like from such a different movie. Like this is incongruous with like what's going on with the rest of the film. So I was like, does this need to be here?
What on earth is going on here? Gentlemen, have you no sense of decency?
Milic, have you gone crazy?
You will have to explain to police.
The police? We were invited here by the young lady.
Young lady, it is my daughter. And couldn't you see she is a child? I'll kill you. Hold on to that girl for me, please.
Milic, this is preposterous. The young lady invited us here.
Couldn't you see she is deranged? Gentlemen, this is now a police matter.
What are you doing? Let us out of here.
I'm afraid that's out of the question.
Doctor, sorry, what color did you say? Black?
Black.
I don't know, but that was just me.
Okay. We ready to get scores?
I'm ready.
Give me that score.
All right. I'm going to go for the first time ever, 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Thought I hit everything he was trying to do. I had no major problems. On the edge of my seat. I want to watch it again. I want to watch it 3 more times because I feel like there's going to be more ties to random people being part of this secret society.
Whoa, wait a minute. You want to see a Tom Cruise movie 3 more times? Did you say that?
I like most of
he
his
is.
movies. It's the person I don't like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Who's
I guess
next?
I'll go next.
Sure.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
All right.
It was a super solid movie. Great performances all around the board. I felt the score could have been a little more varied. I mean, I do like that main theme, hitting home in certain moments, but I felt like it was too much.
Agreed.
Overall, I mean, it was a long movie. I think I agree with Sean a little bit that it could have been cut down, but just a tiny bit, less so than Sean has mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just overall great and very edge of your seat movie, definitely.
Hell yeah. Last but not least.
So I give it a 7.5 out of 10. As Danny said, solid film. I felt like it was a bit too long, as I've stated. Love the performances. I thought everyone did what they need to do. Other than that, part of what brought the film down for me is I thought they were both pretty deplorable people. So to watch a movie about 2 deplorable people was like, for me, I had a bit of a headache by the time I finished watching the film because I was like, oh, I don't like these people.
Bad people give you headaches?
Well, as deplorable as they were those couple nights, I was like, oh my goodness, just like talk it out. Like I was so happy. Like I actually really enjoyed the ending because they finally talked it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually. And this is honestly, this is a common theme that I have with a lot of movies that I appreciate is when characters finally stop with the pretense and just talk to each other as real people. And they actually listen to each other. I really appreciate that in films. But otherwise, Kubrick film, there's a standard of excellence there that will always be there. That's pretty much it.
Sweet. Next week, we're watching the classic animated film Tokyo Godfathers by the legendary Satoshi Kon. On Christmas Eve, 3 homeless people living on the streets of Tokyo discover a newborn baby among the trash and set out to find its parents. Join us for the heartwarming Christmas story that everyone's raging about. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and just maybe, you'll learn something along the way. Sean, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please give us a rating and download. That really goes a long way towards helping the podcast. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and click the little notify bell so that you know when new episodes drop every week.
All right, everybody. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Felicia.
Nope.
Fidelio.